foreign power handed influence in Britain's justice system. These are new revelations published in The Guardian newspaper about the British government sharing contact details of counter-terrorism police and prosecutors with the Israeli embassy whilst there was an investigation into protests at an arms factory. The context here is the arrest of 10 Palestine Action activists under the Terrorism Act during a protest at an Israeli weapons factory last August, with another 8 then arrested 3 months later. According to The Guardian, the email sent by Nicholas Smith, the head of international law at the Attorney General's office and obtained through a Freedom of Information request, was sent 11 days after she'd met Grudsky Eckstein. It was redacted apart from the subject matter. What the hell's going on here then? As the solicitors for the Palestine Action activists ask, the information disclosed in response to an FOI request clearly raised questions and need further investigation. Why, for example, did the Attorney General's office provide the contact details for the Crown Prosecution Service, an independent body, to the Israelis? What further exchanges followed, and was there discussions about ongoing criminal prosecutions? Now, Palestine Action takes direct action in the UK against Israel's genocide, up to and including breaking the law, which in the world we live in is judged to be worse than breaking international law to facilitate the mass slaughter of innocent people. I've covered their prosecutions, the prosecutions taken against their activists on this channel repeatedly, including the use of anti-terror legislation against them. I'm honoured to be joined again by the brilliant Huda Ammori from Palestine Action to talk over what these revelations mean. Firstly, tell me your response to what we've discovered.
Well, I think it's quite disturbing, to say the least. We now know that the Attorney General's office, which is part of the UK government, sent the Israeli embassy, the Deputy Israel Ambassador, to be specific, contact details for the CPS and the counter-terrorism police. And this was whilst the investigation into 2018 was ongoing, which obviously suggests that there was follow-up communication because there was contact established between the Deputy Israel Ambassador and the counter-terrorism police, the unit overseeing the Filton 18 investigation, and other cases as well. We've heard of other journalists being arrested under the Terrorism Act, other activists being arrested under the Terrorism Act, following this, the contact being established in this case. So it is very disturbing and could point to the fact that there could be an abusive process in these cases, because the Israeli embassy, Deputy Israel Ambassador, has no business having details of the prosecution in this case, if not to be discussing ongoing legal cases where the ramifications and the consequences of this political interference are very severe for those being subject to prosecutions.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, with your lawyers, are they kind of shocked by this? That the idea that a foreign power, and let's bear in mind, this is a foreign power, is being given some sort of, literally as well, not transparent influence in the justice system.
Yeah, I mean, it is shocking in the sense that we have the evidence in black and white now. And, when we look at the Filton 18 case, which is when, at first it was 10 activists were arrested in August 2024. The contact details that were sent to the Israeli embassy was a follow-up to a meeting between the Deputy Israel Ambassador and the Attorney General's office on August the 28th. After that, there were 10 more violent raids and arrests and people being locked up. Now they make up the 18. But I think when this case started, it was shocking in and of itself that there was an accusation of the terrorism connection, which is a very, very serious accusation and has led to them, as we've talked about before, some might be denied bail for up to 2 years before they go to trial. So I think that in itself is shocking. And it does point to the fact that this is a political case. So I think that people were already thinking there has got to be some sort of political interference in these cases because, the riots in summer 2024, there was no terrorism connection associated there. It's not been used in this way. It's completely unprecedented. But now we have evidence to show that a foreign government was involved and would have been discussing things with the Crown Prosecution Service and the counter-terrorism police. And it just shows that the state is prioritizing the interests of a foreign genocidal entity. over the rights and freedoms of their own citizens, to the point where we're having people locked up unconvicted for 2 years before trial, and they face harsher sentences if this terrorism connection is decided by the judge at.
I mean, this is a crucial point. This is a state which is committing genocide, whose leaders have arrest warrants against them for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Where there is a consensus amongst genocide scholars, this is genocide. There's a case at the International Court of Justice on genocide, as well as actually multiple other cases as well. There are more arrest warrants expected from the International Criminal Court as well for other Israeli leaders and officials, though they won't be made public now, so we won't know when they happen, but that's definitely the case. That's the context for it's not just like, this is like just France. I mean, France has got its own problems and crimes it's been committed in throughout the past or whatever, but we're talking about genocide being committed by a foreign power here. Do you know what I mean? It's not just like France or Germany. It's a country, an entity, whatever you want to call it, which is committing genocide.
Yeah, definitely. And also you have to remember what the Filton 18 are accused of doing, which is destroying Israeli quadcopter drones, the kind of quadcopter drones we're seeing being used to commit this genocide. So I think what's being exposed here is even further. We already knew Britain was participating in the genocide. You know, we have these flights going from Britain to Akrotiri to Israel. We have these weapons being made here. But now, not only are they directly participating in the ongoing genocide, but they are violating their own laws in order to protect this genocidal entity over the rights of their own citizens. So this is how far they are willing to go to protect a foreign regime which is committing genocide. Because in the CPS Code of Conduct, it says categorically that the prosecutors have to be free from political interference, political pressure, or any improper influence. Now, this is 100% improper influence if you're having contact with the Israeli embassy. And when those things occur, it is an abusive process, and the prosecution should be stopped as a result. The case should be thrown out as a result of this evidence coming to light, because it is crucial that, you know, this is what even the Attorney General says, right? He did a lecture on the rule of law, ironically, towards the end of last year. Paramount to the rule of law is the independence of the judiciary. And there is a reason for that, because when you don't have that, it allows for corruption. It allows for people with influence to completely corrupt our system. And then it's those at the receiving end who are bearing the consequences of that political interference. That's why it's an abusive process. So why the only just solution is for these cases to be thrown out. And I think what's really disturbing as well is that, you know, if there was phone numbers passed on and you're on someone's phone, how is the public ever going to get hold of that kind of information? And the fact that they can just freely, a foreign regime can freely call the people prosecuting British citizens under draconian laws, we'll never know the full extent. This is just scratching the surface, but it does show that there is contact.
And I mean, we're told, I mean, you alluded to this, the Attorney General with its, you know, doing a speech on the rule of law. We're told that the independence of the judiciary is a cornerstone of this great, flourishing democracy that we have in this country. What does that say about that particular claim?
Well, it completely disproves it. I mean, I think that's the point, isn't it? I mean, this is something which everyone should be absolutely up in arms about. I mean, it's clearly a violation of that. And this isn't the first time we've seen something like this. I mean, this is quite extraordinary in and of itself because of how specific it is. But we've seen meetings between Elbit Systems, government ministers, in the same room with senior police officers and with someone from the Attorney General's office who was there to represent the CPS. So you have the people prosecuting the case, the police officers who are going to be the ones who bash people's doors in, Elbit Systems and government ministers all in the same room discussing Palestine Action cases. I mean, they are completely blurring the whole separation of powers. And why are they doing that? Why are they corrupting their so-called democracy? It's to protect this weapons manufacturer. And it's interesting as well, because it just shows how embedded Elbit Systems is with the Israeli government. The fact that the Israeli government is doing their bidding and is lobbying, is working to protect them and interfere in the judicial system on their behalf. In that chain that we talked about, where they sent the contact details, that was a follow-up to a meeting on August 28th. Someone else who was involved was Douglas Wilson, who is the Director General of the Attorney General's office. I think like one of the most senior civil servants you can get there. He was involved in discussions with the Israeli embassy back in 2022. And they were discussing Palestine action cases and the defenses available in our court cases. And that was exposed in The Guardian a year later. So there is there's a series of these things happening, but now it's culminated in people being held behind bars, accused of terrorism. We're talking about a weapons manufacturer who test their weapons during a genocide on Palestinians. And this is clearly a result, or can be seen as a result of this build-up of political interference and this need to crack down on people.
I think this is such an explosive revelation, and it obviously exposes as you say, it scratches the surface, because we just don't know the full relations that exist between the British state and the Israeli state. We just don't know. I mean, this is just like gives us a little inkling of the sorts of things happening behind the doors of the British public, of people in this country, about who are told they have this, independent judiciary and all the rest of it. We can see that isn't the case, and that actually, as well as exposing British complicity in genocide or further exposing it, it should ask very searching questions about the nature of democracy in this country as we are told. So it's such an important case, and as ever, Palestine Action doing incredible work, putting their freedom at risk and losing their freedom in order to fight a genocide which has been committed in plain sight with the facilitation of the British government. So please do share this video. Make sure everyone hears what Huda has to say, and also press like and subscribe and leave comments, because then that spreads the message. That's good for getting the message out, so more people hear Huda, which is the point. Thanks so much as ever, and massive solidarity for all you do.
Thanks, Owen. Thank you for having me on.